gummy bear.
It's the internet, you're busy. Let's do this for July 29th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, the dinosaurs are in indie games now, but first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Tamoor Hussain, everybody, from Giant Bomb.
Hello,
how's it going,
everyone? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good week. I felt productive. That's weird for me, so I'm going to take it as a W. I'm taking this
You're
week
being
as a W,
very
Tam.
productive. Jeff, I don't know if anyone's told you lately, but you're doing great.
Thank you so much, Tam. I really appreciate that. I've been waiting to hear it specifically from you, and so it's great to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's true. You're doing great. I listen and watch as much as I can. Most mornings I am tuned in, and it's been great.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I just want to be there when you wake up, when you roll out of bed in the morning.
It's
just want to be there for you,
wonderful.
Tam.
I can only start my day by listening to your voice and a guest's voice.
Absolutely.
And doing pioneering stuff.
Exactly,
Giant
right?
Giant Bomb's never had a daily news show.
Breaking the form. Yes, we've broken the mold here. Absolutely. After this, there will never be another daily news show, and there hasn't been any before either. Yeah, that's my feeling on the matter.
The first ever one.
And please don't ever play this in a courtroom. All right. Let's see. Before we get into the game mess, let's explain ourselves. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up, where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even bring some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Sony warns of a weaker PlayStation business as game sales wobble. This comes from Tom Warren at The Verge. Tom gave a pretty good breakdown of some of the numbers here. Let's go through those first. 2.4 million, PS5s shipped or sold in. That's up 4%. But PlayStation software sales are down 26% year over year. Meanwhile, PlayStation Plus subscriptions are at 47.3 million. That's up 2%, but then monthly active PSN users, 102 million, is down 3%. So you can see some I think the wobbling is a really good term from Tom, where you could tell it's just this top that is trying to find equilibrium after, shooting up during the pandemic. And now it's like, where are we going to sort of settle into a groove here? And it feels like the industry is just like, people are buying more hardware. They're buying less games. They're going out, they're playing, they want to have the console, but they also want to do other things with their money. And it just feels like the industry is trying to figure out where all of that is going to land in terms of the wider market. These numbers, though, pretty good. Obviously, though, PlayStation's still supply constrained, right?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to that supply constraint. And you're right. It's just a matter of where is it going to land. Surprisingly, I found that I don't know, from an anecdotal perspective, it is getting better. I think that the interesting thing is it comes in fits and waves where it's it'll get better for a bit. And then it's again, it's going to be rough. Right now, over the last week or two, I found multiple times that it was easy to purchase a PlayStation. I obviously didn't, but I grabbed a link and gave it to other people. And we're like, here you go. You don't have to line up. Right now, it's basically like buying one. I think this is a lot of battening the hatches for the Christmas and the holiday period when people will be, when all hardware will likely be in demand, and it's going to be way harder. It will return to I imagine, because of the higher demand, to the early days where it was basically impossible to get that stuff. And I think this is generally just a warning that, hey, we're coming up to the Christmas, the holiday season, the spending season where people are going to want these things. And we're going to prep people by telling them, hey, it's going to be a weaker business for a little bit because it's going to be tricky. But yeah, fundamentally, though, the difficulty in buying stuff is naturally going to ebb and flow. And it bears out in the numbers so far.
Yeah, and Sony, like you said, kind of just preparing people for what could happen for an uncertain immediate future. Anyhow, it cut its forecast profit for the PlayStation division in game sales. It says its annual profit outlook It's warning of a weaker PlayStation game sales forecast. The forecast comes as Sony revealed it shipped 2.4 million PlayStation 5 consoles in recent quarter. And then while hardware sales are slightly up year over year, software sales plummeted. Sony blamed the game slump on a lack of big PlayStation titles this year compared to 2021. So clearly, while right now, the immediate future, the immediate past, they're like, okay, there's a slump. Once God of War is here, I would expect many of these issues to resolve themselves, right?
Yeah, I think that is going. It's going to be really interesting because God of War is obviously a system seller, and right now we're in a weird time where system sellers, when they come out, it's no guarantee that they'll have a good impact because the systems just aren't there. So it's fascinating. I imagine God of War will have an up. It's going to create an uptick in purchases for sure. But that uptick is naturally, the ceiling on it is defined by the lack of availability of PlayStation consoles. I think from Sony's side, what they're probably telling themselves is, like God of War, the first game, Ragnarok will be a game that has a long tail.
Yeah.
So when those supply constraints ideally do even out, this will be one of the games, along with Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Horizon, and Demon Souls, and a few others, that will propel people to buy these games, and it will still have a pretty good attach rate. And who knows,
Exactly.
by that time there could be even bundles where it's like the God of War Ragnarok bundle. But yeah, it's definitely going to move units a little more, but those units aren't going to be like mind-blowing because it's just hard to find that. And in previous generations, it would be simply a case of, or I say simply, but it would be a case of adjusting supply to meet demand, whereas the situation we have now is they can't adjust supply to meet the demand because the components.
Yeah, so but speaking on the future of like the component shortage, Sony did sound a little bit more hopeful on that front. Sony now hopes hardware shipments will improve later this year, as it believes that it is mostly supply chain disruptions that are affecting PS5 shipments rather than a lack of components. So it's like it really has been components this entire time. Sony at least is intimating here that maybe that is going to no longer be the case. And now we're going to be dealing with more wobbling, but now it's just wobbling in that supply chain as they try to like get that all figured out to a point where it can be a little tauter and they can get more things to where people are demanding it right now, instead of just like in fits and starts here and there, where like, okay, we get a huge shipment to America right now of PlayStation 5s, and then in a month it's like there are no PlayStation 5s anywhere, and a bunch popped up in some other country somewhere. So they want to maybe be able to like do a more regular paced out release of these consoles over time. Reuters reports that Sony now has revised its annual profit forecast down 16% for its gaming business, as it anticipates another fall in game sales next quarter, alongside costs associated with its recent $3.7 billion Bungie acquisition. Yeah, I mean, when you have like big costs like that on your books, there's going to be a drop in terms. Like if that is when they're reporting that cost, it's gonna hurt them, but like they'll bounce right back next quarter. That's the kind of thing where that money was either just sitting in their bank or they got it with pretty good terms. As interest rates go up, they probably got it with pretty good terms. That's the kind of money, making their money work for them by getting Bungie is going to be worth it in the long run. But yeah, they'll probably take another hit next quarter. Let's see, and this last little bit here. Sony's PlayStation game sales are the latest sign that the gaming industry is slowing down after a big boost during the initial stages of the pandemic. Microsoft doesn't reveal its own Xbox hardware shipments, but the company saw Xbox hardware revenue dip 11% in its recent quarter, alongside a 6% dip in Xbox content and services revenue and a 7% decline in overall gaming revenue. While Microsoft had a strong fiscal year for Xbox revenue, the company is also warning that the gaming revenue and Xbox content and services revenue will both decline next quarter. So this is not a Sony or Xbox problem. They are both expecting more of this correction to the pandemic. They'll probably maintain a lot of the momentum they got, because once you sell a console to a person, they have it. It's much easier for them to decide, I want to buy another video game. Like the hard part is getting them to buy the console, but still they're expecting some of that entertainment budget to go elsewhere, and that just makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Sony was asked about the possibility of raising the price of the PS5. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Sony has refused to be drawn on whether current economic pressures could lead the company to increase the price of the PlayStation 5. In April, Sony raised the Japanese prices of a range of consumer electronic products, including some cameras, Blu-ray players, home theater systems, headphones, and speakers. It said the price revisions were being made in light of ongoing semiconductor shortages and other external factors that have caused the cost of raw materials, manufacturing, and distribution to increase. During its first quarter earnings call on Friday, Sony was asked about this, and it said about a potential price increase for PS5. At this point in time, there's nothing specific we can share about price increases. So they're not even going to like sort of entertain this question. The only reason this like makes sense to ask about right now is because Meta raised the price of the Quest 2, Facebook, whatever you want to call them. There is no chance of Sony doing this, right? They're too well aware of the backlash this would create.
I think they're too well aware of the backlash this will create, and also it's just the worst time from a PR perspective when a lot of people are struggling to buy it. So I think that the problem you have is if you raise the price now and it's not immediately available as is, people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to pay more money and put in hard work to find this thing. I'll just go and find something cheaper. And chances are they'll find an Xbox or a Switch or upgrade or decide to invest in a PC or something like that. I think it is like it would be shooting themselves in the leg. And it would not be the time for it. I think traditionally console manufacturers don't raise prices.
No. I can't think of a time. The only time that's ever happened was when Nintendo released the OLED, and that was $50 more expensive than the launch price of the original Switch. That's the only time I can really think of it ever happening.
The way we do it in the industry is they increase the price of a console by introducing a revision, which is a PS5 Pro or something like that, or they create some sort of bundle where it looks like you're getting more out of it while increasing the price. So if they chucked in 5 digital games or something like that, which is probably cheaper than bundling in a bunch of physical games and then raise the price, that would be a way to do it. But I don't think they look at the core unit and they go, this is where we're taking the baseline price of this model and just raising it. The meta thing is like, the difference there is PlayStation and console game hardware it was established product that they didn't need to figure out mainstream penetration on.
Right.
Whereas VR hardware, in many ways, is still trying to penetrate the mainstream and reach there. And the reason the Oculus Quest can go up is because I believe they sold it at cost for a really long time, or they weren't making money on it in a major way. And they needed to do that because they needed to sell the idea of VR as much as the actual VR product as well. And if it's super expensive, one of the main downsides for people was VR is a thing that they believe is quite costly to invest in. So the Quest 2's kind of big thing was it's this thing that you don't need to plug into anything else, you don't need anything else, and it's dirt cheap. And it's very good. So that was the kind of thing. But I think the realities of the situation have now reached a point where either they believe at Meta that they've reached the market penetration that they want, where they can now raise the price, or they simply cannot afford to carry on doing it at that price, selling it at that price. And the flip side of market penetration is no longer a concern to them because they need to recoup some costs.
Yeah, well, Tam, one of my favorite capitalism simulating games is, everyone knows it's Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land, a game where you play as Tingle, and the entire mechanic is you need to get money, and then you need to guess how much money this person wants for the thing that you need. And if you come up with a price that is too low, they just keep the money and they don't give you the thing. Now, that's not how it works, but it's a good thing where it's like all this stuff is made up. The economics is not a hard science. It is trying to guess what people will be okay with. And that clearly Meta's we can get away with this price increase right now. PlayStation is just in such a different market, right? Where the Xbox Series S exists and it's this thing that's selling pretty well and pretty easily available. And it's one of the main reasons that, according to Microsoft, the Xbox Series X and S have been the market leader for the last 3 quarters or something like that. Obviously, supply constraints on PS5, a huge reason for that as well. But the availability of the Xbox Series S plays into that. And these things competing in the same space, Microsoft's not going to raise the price of its consoles. Sony's also not going to do it. But this is the reason why. These two things are too easy to compare. Gaming fans, way too loud. and it would just be such a backlash. It would be such a hard thing to push through. Where in the VR space, it's like, I mean, if you don't want the Quest 2, what are you going to do? Go buy a Valve Index for $1,000 and plug it into your PC? Like, Quest 2 is just not competing in the same way with other devices, so they can get away with it. Even then, there's a backlash against that one as well.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, even at that price, the Quest 2 is pretty good. It's still worth it. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but that thing was...
I agree.
I was surprised at how cheap that thing was, and even at its current price, I'm like, that's good, man.
Right.
For the thing that you're getting, it's good.
Right. It's like, I get that, like, this is, it's so bold of them, like, and not like, I'm like, oh, it's so impressive, but it's like, they're just, hey, this thing's worth it at this price too. Typically, you would see a company be like, okay, what we could do is, let's just cut off the 128 gigabyte model, and we'll keep selling this the current high-end model for the same price as it was before, and then we'll introduce an even more capacity model for even more money, and that will raise the average sales price. They're like, no, just raise the price of everything. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
whatever, go for it, Facebook.
They are chucking in Beat Saber, if I remember correctly.
That's right. That's true. That's
a great game.
Good point. Yes,
that's a great game.
And that's the game you would get if you're getting one of these. You're right.
Very, very easy to mod and stick all of your anime intros in there.
Which, you have to do. They should just do that for you. They should honestly just do it for you at this point. All right. Yesterday was the Annapurna Interactive Showcase. There's a bunch of games here in this list. A lot of stuff is just like, oh, now it's getting ported from one platform to another. Tam, did you catch up on this? Did anything stand out to you?
I watched a couple of things, and honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about is the Outer Wilds update.
I mean, I'm like I'm at a point where I'm like, I forgot most of that game. It's probably time for another playthrough. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I've not played the DLC yet, so I think I might start that very, very soon. I streamed the original Outer Worlds, and I did this thing where I set the world is ending music. Mm-hmm. I set that to a button on my stream deck, so I'd just randomly press it at weird times, and the entire chat would be like, what the hell is going on? So I'm excited to jump back. But in terms of other games, like, the things that I'm most interested in are, sadly, the one that I'm most interested in is sadly something that we know little to nothing about, which is Keita Takahashi's new game.
Right.
His studio is called Uvula. I think it is Uvula. Yeah, something like that. That looks cool. There's also Hohokum's coming out as well, and the Lost Wild seems interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm showing here. It looks like if Capcom were to make a Dino Crisis with the new Resident Evil model, right?
That's exactly what I hope it is. And because like I love that we've reached a stage where developers will be like, if you're not going to make it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And we'll just make things. And
the scope of that keeps increasing, right? Because it was like, if you're not going to make a Metroidvania, we will. And now it's like, if you're not going to make the modern Dino Crisis first-person game like that looks just like Resident Evil 7, we'll do it. I'm like, whoa, okay, really? You could do that? This is fantastic. Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm excited at the prospect of that. I hope it does like work out for them and it is as good as everyone wants it to be. But yeah, those are the main things that stuck out for me. There's a few other stories that were like a few other games that were just like, hey, here's a bunch of developers talking about their games, which look interesting, but I'm still waiting to see more about the games. Like Forever Ago, for example, it's like a road trip game with an old man, which seems pretty interesting. But I want to see more of that, but less of the people just being like, hello, we're in Germany and we have been making some games. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was into a lot of games coming to Switch, a lot of games coming to Game Pass. That's nice. That's always good. It's like Solar Ash, Maquette, Pathless. I think these are all coming to Xbox. I think Maquette and Solar Ash are on Game Pass. Outer Wilds, they say, is still coming to Switch. That port's still happening, although they were very apologetic about how long that's seemingly still going to take. So probably still going to be a while. Yeah, I don't know. I was into it. I overall tend to like mini Annapurna games. I still kind of can't get the taste of the recent reporting about Annapurna out of my mouth, where it's like, oh, they're just LA dude bros, just like any other Hollywood bro that you would expect to meet in Hollywood, and they kind of just want to make their money. I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, so they're not like some perfect publisher. It sounds like a lot of other publishing outfits. Hopefully these developers that are working with them can get their games made and treat their employees right.
ultimately, if they're giving us the games that are interesting and the people who are in partnerships with them are being treated well, who cares what they're? If they're dude bros, let them be dude bros, whatever, man.
Right.
Dude bros could do a lot worse, and currently it looks like they're just putting out interesting games and funding them. So as long as the people below the dude bros are doing the right things, whatever.
Yeah, that has been the case in like many of these, some of these studios. That has not been the case, but hopefully the reporting and they shore that stuff up. But
Yeah.
it's not at every studio. Although
The other game I forgot to mention is Thirsty Suitors from Outer Loop Games. I'm super excited about that because it looks really cool.
right, I'm gonna bring up that trailer right now. Yeah, that also looked very good. That it's like interesting, like Keita Takahashi, like he was working with them before with that previous studio that had some issues. And it's interesting that studio closed down. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe check and help, but now like, oh, but they're still working. Keita Takahashi did go back to them, so that's like, okay, maybe there's still something there where it's like the issue wasn't with Annapurna, maybe the issue was the other way. But
the studio,
yeah, Thirsty Suitors looking very cool. This vibing skateboarding, like life sim. I don't know, it's very cool.
Yeah, it's like a dating life sim full of South Asian representation. That's really cool.
Yeah, Sergio is my dude here with his hella mullet there. Yeah, okay, very
It looks
cool.
really awesome.
All right, let's see. Valve won't allow awards and reviews on Steam store images starting in September. This comes from Jay Peters at The Verge. Valve is making a big change to the way developers can market their games on Steam. Beginning September 1st, graphical assets developers use in their store listings will only be able to include game artwork, the game's name, and any official subtitle. Images won't be able to include review scores, award names, or logos, text that markets discounts, or text promoting a different product. Here's Valve's reasoning for the change from a blog post. It's our goal to make it as clear and straightforward as possible for customers to find games to buy and play on Steam. Recently, we've noticed more text, award logos, and even some review scores being included by game developers in their graphical asset images. This made us realize our guidelines haven't been as clear as they should be. As a result of not having clear defined rules, we've seen additions to graphical assets that are creating a confusing and sometimes even inaccurate experience for customers. I mean,
what are they fucking talking about,
I don't
man?
know. Like all marketing is inherently sort of a lie, right? Like it's like all about like building buzz and making you feel like you're going to miss out. And one way that companies often do that is like, here are all the 9s out of 10s we got. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a problem to me.
It's our goal to make it as clear and straightforward as possible for customers to find games to buy and play on Steam. Has anyone who wrote that used Steam in the last 5 years?
Right.
Because let me tell you, whoever you are, you've got a lot more work and a lot more important things to worry about than images with reviews and or pictures of reviews or like scores on it, because Steam is a nightmare hellscape of discovery and the ability to find stuff. The only way I successfully will find stuff is when I know exactly what I want and I go there and I type it in. If not, I am probably getting into just some sort of nonsense like rabbit hole where I won't find anything, and it's so weird. I don't really understand this.
So, I mean, here they explain some more. Like some game logos themselves have become so small that it's hard for players to tell what the name of the game is. In other cases, graphical asset images are so cluttered with award logos and ratings that it is distracted and hard to read. This sounds like old man stuff. Like, I can't see what the name of it's right there, also right next to the image. Like, I don't see these as issues. I don't get this.
I feel like this is a case of, I'm going to be cynical and say, when I go to a Steam page, the main thing that draws my eye and attention is the main unit, right? Where the screenshots are. Mm-hmm. Everything else around it is a complete mess.
It's real cluttered and hard to
cluttered.
To parse.
Like, if they want to fix stuff, fix everything around that main unit.
Yeah.
For me, I think the easiest way to get a handle on what a game is and whether I'm interested is just use that scroll thing and go through the images, maybe look at a video. And I think developers marketing very smartly realized the rest of Steam is bullshit and it is confusing people. Let's just put the image here with all the review scores. And I think what has happened here is Valve has gone, well, we have all this annoying shit down here where we put review scores and quotes and links and this kind of stuff, or all the data that we need people to pass to make these decisions, or like all the extra sections that they have, is pointless. So let's take it out of there and make sure that they go there.
And like game boxes have had like review scores pasted on them, and like Game of the Year awards, emblems pasted on their front for forever. This just feels like it's part of how you sell games. I mean, honestly, I think I might honestly find it helpful when I look at a game's art and they show me, this has been reviewed by reputable sources, and it's like, of course they're cherry picking. I know they're cherry picking, and maybe this is not a fully accurate representation, but at least tells me that, oh, this game has been recognized by people who have played it, and they did give it a score. They played enough to give it a score, and I know if I go to look for reviews, there will be more. Like I make that split decision like in a second, where I'm going through Steam and I see a game and I'm like, okay, this one, IGN reviewed this. That's okay. I'm going to go maybe see if there are other reviews. If it's just, and then if it's at this, on the other hand, if it's like, oh, here's like some 7s and 8s out of 10s and I don't recognize any of these sites, maybe that kind of turns me off a little bit. Like I find it informational to an extent.
Yeah. And like I'm on a Steam page right now, and it's so silly because the smallest text on this screen currently is the review part of it. Like the logo, the other images in the carousel are way bigger than the text. Like they're way easier to pass. So if anything, they should be like looking at how they present text and the other sections below it instead of what is going on. Like there's stuff on the side which is like, is this game relevant to you? Mm-hmm. Here's all these like genre signifiers, online PvP, Steam achievements. Like I don't care about any of that.
I mean, because that stuff's done by like the community and done by algorithms. I kind of want like more places for the developer themselves to be like, here is what our game is, and here's like what it can do when you actually play it, and here's how you might feel about it. None of that stuff is like, many of those things are cluttered up by stuff that is created by the algorithm or by the community, and so it's like it gets confusing, and it just feels like this gray smudge that I ignore in most cases on Steam.
Yeah, and there's also a complete lack of consistency. Like I went to the No Man's Sky page, and there was reviews there. I'm now on the Red Dead Redemption 2 page, no reviews. There's no review section here. So like, what is someone supposed to do if they go to a page and they're not guaranteed to get the same information on every single one? Like, how do I now look at? There's nothing on this Red Dead Redemption 2 store page that tells me about the quality of the game. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no review here unless I scroll all the way down and go to the customer review section. Like, it's baffling. Like, then if you're gonna do something like, hey, you can't put review or logo or award logos in your images, make it mandatory to ensure that it's up front and center the review side of it, so people can get a very good glance of some quotes from reviews. It has stuff like reviews are positive, but like, what is that for? If I click that, it goes down to the bottom where Steam, user reviews are there. And I don't know about you, but I don't always use Steam user reviews because they're ridiculous.
Yeah, I glance at that, mostly positive, overwhelmingly positive. I glance at that, and that's it.
There's a lad here that's got 900 hours in Red Dead Redemption 2 and says it's not worth it. So what am I supposed to do?
Yep.
What am I supposed to do with that information?
Yep. That's a tough one to parse. Exactly. It's like when I look at those reviews, I often come out more confused. So yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Steam they sell a lot of video games. They kind of feel like they could probably get away with like defining stuff however they want. But this just feels like a weird backward step from their laissez-faire attitude, where it's like, hey, just sell games however you want. We don't care. And like suddenly to like wake up and be like, well, we don't want review scores and image. It just feels out of nowhere. I'm like confused by it. Let's see. Mega Man franchise has now sold 38 million units. This came from earlier this week. I just kind of wanted to bring it up because I thought it was a pretty good point of comparison between all these different things here. Let's bring up the asset. 38 million copies sold for Mega Man. That's the one that's stuck out to me, but it's like that's one of the reasons we might not be getting more, because that series has been on for so long, and yet the Resident Evil series, 127 million units sold. So you can see maybe where Capcom thinks it should be investing its resources. Now, at the same time, Devil May Cry series, 26 million units, but of course that's also a younger franchise than Mega Man. Let's see. Let's go through these. Street Fighter series, 48 million units. Monster Hunter, 84 million units, and Dragon's Dogma series, 6.8 million units. When you look at these numbers, it's like, do you think there's a chance of Mega Man to have a future alongside all these other things that Capcom is obviously like double down on Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Street Fighter? These are working for us. Do you think Mega Man could ever get there?
I would be surprised if Mega Man comes back in a major way. Like I don't see Mega Man getting a triple A experience. I think Mega Man sadly will always be confined to we put a small team to make this a kind of indie experience, or we've taken all the other Mega Man games and once again packaged them into a re-release of some sort, and here it is again. Please buy it. Which is a shame because I think there's a lot of potential in that franchise. It is like this is gonna sound blasphemous, but like it has Sonic energy. You know, like
Yeah.
they could turn it into a good animated series. They could turn it into a great comic series again, and create some really cool, I don't know, Sonic Mania style experiences. And I don't see Capcom having much interest in doing that. Isn't Battle Network coming out
Yeah,
again soon?
the Battle Network collection is coming soon. That's the next thing they're
Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
yeah. So like, I don't know. I feel like Battle Network has got a lot of legs in it. And maybe this is a chance for people to, jump in and show that they care about Mega Man by supporting that and buying that Mega Man type of those Mega Man experiences. But I would love to. Mega Man has always been a character that I enjoy, but I've never played, not played. I never like super fell in love with the original games. The Battle Network stuff that I dipped into were more my jam. But I truly believe that there's a really cool modern Megavania game to be made, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I love the idea of a studio taking Mega Man and turning it into a bigger Metroidvania style game where you going around collecting powers and I don't know, maybe like Zero is knocking about as if it's like Samus, the evil version of Samus or something like shit like that.
The other number here, let's see, what was Dragon's Dogma 6.8 million. That's for the first game, and it's like updates or whatever. That's pretty good for Dragon's Dogma so far. Do you expect when Dragon's Dogma 2 comes out that it could be like a 10 million seller? Like, could it get to that next level of being a major blockbuster?
Do you want my honest truth?
Yes, I do.
I think when Dragon's Dogma comes out too, no one's gonna give a single shit.
Oh man, oh no.
I think Mega Man, not Mega Man, Dragon's Dogma 2. What we have is Capcom is about to have their Mirror's Edge 2 moment.
Yeah, that's
I say
possible.
that as a big Dragon's Dogma fan. I know we have a lot of folks in Giant Bomb community, but also past staff that love that game. I want it to succeed, but in my heart of hearts, I feel like that game's gonna come out and people are gonna be like, "What is this? No thanks," and just move on. I feel like the Dragon's Dogma fan base has been really good about sounding louder than they are, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because the game was a sleeper hit, and then it kind of it built up slowly. But it's like one of those things. Like if you're a champion of it, you'll be pretty loud among those champions because like not everyone was a champion of it. Like some games. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it kind of also depends on the timing. Like when do they put it out? If they put it out at the right opportune moment, it could hit in a big way. We've seen indie games now come out and everyone they look like they're being they wouldn't be a major deal, but because of when they're released, they are like the perfect thing at the perfect moment when people needed it and they pop off in a massive way. Elden Ring's not a great example because it's from software, but like the timing at which Elden Ring came out helped it incredibly. Like there literally no one else was around it. That's partly because people moved away from it, but also there weren't a lot of other games coming out and it owned like the conversation for a couple of months.
Right.
And that was like a big deal. And obviously Dragon's Dogma is a very different type of game, but it also has an Elden Ring energy to it, where it's this big open world game and it will have a lot of really cool like dynamics, gameplay dynamics and mechanics. So it could do something big. I really want it to succeed, but deep down I have just this itching feeling where it's going to be one of those things where it got made, where all the people that play it are happy that it got made. It's probably a decent game. Maybe it's an amazing game. And Itsuno-san has it out of his system because this is his baby and he's been trying to make it for ages. He's like, God damn it, I keep making you amazing Devil May Cry games. Let me make the one game that I want. And then he makes it, and maybe we just move on from there, and that's the last of we see of Dragon's Dogma. But I don't know, man. There's something about it that just makes me feel like we're setting them up to really get some pie in their face.
He said all that shit. I didn't say anything. In years, when you come back to clip this to rub it in our faces, just Tam. You leave me out of it, all right?
Hey, I say
Tam
repeatedly,
said that shit.
I want it to succeed. My feeling is that we might be like, we might have oversold it to Capcom. And you know what? You know why I want it to succeed? Because if it succeeds, that's one step closer to getting the God Hand remake that I've been dying for.
That's what this has all been about. I knew it.
Okay.
Fuck, I knew it. Oh, all right. Let's see. Famitsu Japanese physical charts. I'm bringing this up just because we get a little bit of info about Live Alive and how it's doing. It was #1 for the week in Japan. These are the physical sales, 71,137. So if you add in, assumed at least 30% digital, it's going to be right around 100,000. It's probably more than 30%. So maybe even near 150,000 units. That's pretty good for a game that sort of no one ever talked about, or most people did not talk about until it got announced at Nintendo Direct a few weeks ago with the HD 2D remake. And now here it is, and it seems to be kicking off. I think this game's going to be a pretty successful thing. And the kind of thing that's like, oh, this is the exact right kind of game to do HD 2D, where it is not this super, super massive big budget thing, but it's a really good recreation of what we already had. And it's going to make easily enough money to justify keep doing things like this in the future, right?
Yeah, for sure. I just started it and I'm having a great time. Noted JRPG expert Dan Reichert seems to be having a great time with it, based on the brief discussions that we have had. But yeah, this is the kind of thing where it's like, hey, take something. I feel like this kind of style could be Nintendo's new like remake approach, where they're like, hey, let's take our old games that maybe we get an Earthbound game like this.
Right. Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? Like when like a hip hop song will sample like an older like song, like a Michael McDonald song.
Yeah.
Like what it was. I'm like Regulate. It's like, okay, now a Michael McDonald song's in the top 40 again. What the hell is going on? That's what it feels like. HD 2D is the hip hop of gaming, is what I've been trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it.
So the Switch still selling very well. It's like when you combine all the models, it's at like 80,000. And you compare that to the supply constrained consoles, PlayStation 5 at 10,000. Like 11,000, and then Xbox Series S and S right around 5,000. So Xbox Series X and S still seems like it's probably outpacing Xbox One, but yeah, once PlayStation 5 is able to get as many units in Japan as they can, it's probably going to keep growing. 10,000, 11,000 for PlayStation 5 also still really low. That system, even though PlayStation doesn't sell as well in Japan as the Switch, it still should be at like 40, 50,000 like every week or something like that. So
yeah.
All right, finally for the news.
Also, I want to point out at the end there, PlayStation 4, 11. 11 PlayStation 4 sold.
11 PlayStation 4 sold last week. 125 new 2DS LLs. There you go.
Yeah.
Man, every time I see like, oh yeah, there's still new 2DSs in Japan, I wonder if I can get those for cost, but we'll see. All right, FTC chair upends antitrust standards with Meta lawsuit. This comes from Cecilia Kang at New York Times. This is relevant to a lot of news in gaming because of acquisitions that just haven't gone through yet, specifically Activision and Microsoft. But let's read so we can kind of like lay the groundwork here for why that may or may not matter. Lena Khan may set off a shift in how Washington regulates competition by filing cases in tech areas before they mature. She faces an uphill climb. And this is Lena Khan is the Federal Trade Commission leader. Early in her tenure as chair of the Federal Trade Commission, Lena Khan declared that she would rein in the power of the largest technology companies in a dramatically new way. We're trying to be forward-looking, anticipating problems, and taking fast action, Ms. Khan said in an interview last month. She promised to focus on next-generation technologies and not just on areas where tech behemoths were already well established. This week, Ms. Khan took her first step towards stopping the tech monopolies of the future when she sued to block a small acquisition by Meta, the company formerly known as Facebook, of the virtual reality fitness startup Within. the deal was significant for Meta's development of the so-called metaverse, which is a nascent technology and far from mainstream. In doing so, Ms. Khan upended decades of antitrust standards, potentially setting off a wholesale shift in the way Washington enforces competition across corporate America. At the heart of the FTC's lawsuit is the idea that regulators can apply antitrust lawsuit without waiting for a market to mature to the point where it is clear that companies hold the most power. The FTC said such early action was justified because Meta's deal would probably eliminate competition in the young virtual reality market. There's some more history here about like the what the standards were previously, but basically like the short version of it is a deal would get blocked by the FTC if it was very clear that it was moving one company more towards a monopoly. That is not necessarily, it'll be very difficult to prove that here. So it feels like Khan is trying to do something here where she is establishing a new standard. And people like analysts, the FTC's lawsuit against Meta in the budding virtual reality market is a deliberately experimental case that seeks to extend the boundaries of merger enforcement, said William Kovacic, a former chair of the agency. Such cases are certainly harder to win. So this feels like he says, an experiment to see if they can broaden the regulatory boundaries that they have. And it's sort of weird because this $400 million deal is kind of the way the system is supposed to work. We've talked about this before, where if you are a small, young company and you want to try to do something, one of the clear incentives to do that is you want to get just big enough where you're not profitable, but a bigger company sees the profit in you and buys you. And by blocking one of these deals, that could de-incentivize people from investing in those ideas in the future. Now, that's not going to happen in every case, but that it will be the argument for why this is probably not a good thing. It's probably going to be a big part of the argument when this actually goes to court, if that happens. Obviously, though, the thing that people are concerned about here, or concerned, whatever, like the reason this might be interesting is because what does this mean for Microsoft acquiring Activision? I think a lot of speculation will be like, well, anything can happen now. If they're going to block this, they could block anything. To me, this sounds like, well, the reason they pick a small thing off to the side is because they do want to test this. And while this test is ongoing, they're probably not going to do anything else too crazy, right? They're probably not going to block the Activision deal.
No. I think it will be a long time before this becomes a standard thing. And like you said, they want to experiment without like upending the entire system before they even know the ins and outs of it and the limitations and advantages, disadvantages. I don't think it has any impact on the Microsoft Activision acquisition at all.
I agree. I think it's just if they wanted to do something about that deal, they probably would have by now. I think they're looking past this. And I also think, like, if you look at the target here, Microsoft in pretty good standing with most regulators and lawmakers in Washington. Facebook, very much not. And Facebook is an easy target. No one likes them. No one likes Mark Zuckerberg. If you are going to test these new ideas and these new possibilities for regulation out, you're going to do it against Mark Zuckerberg. And that also increases your best chance of winning too, because the courts that might oversee this also might not like Facebook as much. It might see more of a threat for them because they've had this pattern, and I just think this is going to be their focus, and Microsoft's probably going to continue to escape by.
I feel like this is one of those use cases where it's like you do it to that company because there's, in the process of doing it, you will understand and discover so many hurdles and pitfalls and things to think about that by the end of it, regardless of whether you succeed or fail, you have just a metric shit ton of understanding and data to look at to be like, this is what we need to think about. This is why it's good. This is why it's a bad idea. These are the common precedents that it will likely set, etc., etc. And you do it with this company. Like, I feel like it's the perfect target for it, because by the end of it, you'll be like, we've encountered every challenge and question that possibly we could encounter, and then you take that information, and when you use it on smaller companies that are less complicated and less have a knock-on effect, you'll probably be like, we can approach this and we know how to tackle this because of all the stuff that we did, from just clapping Mark Zuckerberg's cheeks for a year and a half.
Right. And yeah, as P's Machine points out, this is all applies to U.S. and regulation for these kinds of deals is global, and the European market is completely different with much stricter regulations, and who knows what will happen there. Like a few weeks ago, we got like, oh, this deal might close in 30 days because it passed a certain threshold in America. And it's like, well, yeah, in America, but that doesn't mean the deal will finalize because Europe could still stand in the way, and that's still true here.
If I was Mark Zuckerberg, I would take this opportunity to release a social video of him doing the Khan from Star Trek Wrath of Khan.
Yes, exactly.
And that now's the time, Mark.
There's never been a better time for a Wrath of Khan reference, please.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the catch up. Just a few things here to update people on. Xbox Live August games with gold have been announced. It's games with gold. So it's Caligo, Scourgebringer, Saints Row 2, and Monaco. I like Scourgebringer. I like Monaco. I like Saints Row 2. I've never played Caligo. But this, continues to be the kind of thing where it's like, I'm glad I got, Game Pass. Like, that's what I'm still happy to have.
What's going on with games with gold? It just seems to be a really weird thing right
running
now.
On fumes, right? Who cares
just get
about
rid of it?
It's all it is like this weird thing, like it pops up once a month and people are like, well, that looks pretty bad. Like that's all it ever is. So especially compared to a recent PlayStation Plus, library update where they're like, here's a Yakuza game and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 remake and stuff. I'm like, wow, that's really good. So yeah,
I feel like games with gold is only currently being enjoyed by people with like an Xbox 360 somewhere.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, so someone like in their back room, and they whenever they have a break, they just go in the back room, and someone like forgot to cancel Xbox Live Gold at the business, and so someone's like, "Man, while I'm at work, I get to play all these great games." So yeah. Nintendo is returning to BitSummit. BitSummit is Japan's largest indie game event. It's happening August 6th through 7th. This is Nintendo's first time back in 3 years, and its booth will have 7 indie games. Mm-hmm. So Nintendo getting back out there doing some cool stuff.
I heard that Hollow Knight is going to be there.
Oh, wow. Really? This is what you're going to do? This is what you're going to do to people?
I have heard that Hollow Knight Silk Song will be at BitSummit. Yeah. Everyone.
But it's not going to be in the main booth. You got to go out back. You got to know the password. I would just try to sneak in the back. And don't get arrested, everybody. Oh my god! I think it's cool that Nintendo's going back to BitSummit. I like BitSummit from what I've seen of it. I've never been able to go. If I ever do go to Japan, though, maybe I'll try to time out with BitSummit because it looks like a good time. The indie scene in Japan has like really grown alongside this specific summit, like bringing them all together. And I think a lot of like smaller developers in Japan like looked around and be like, oh, there's way more of us than we were expecting. We just didn't know that we had a community here, and BitSummit has been central to building that out. And that's
BitSummit is one of the coolest events in like modern gaming, like in the world. Like I never been there. I was BitSummit adjacent for a little while, but I spoke to a bunch of people that worked on it and continue to work on it, and I've always like had a back and forth with people because they want us to come a lot. It's tricky because it is in Japan, but it's a show that's 100% worth going to if you're there and can go there. But if you're not, I would say like you can like tune in remotely, and it's really, really, really cool just to keep up on the news of what's going on. It's almost like an information share as much as it is like a gathering of the indie community in Japan. And there's some really amazing stuff that is being made in Japan in the indie scene that BitSummit is pretty much the only place that is surfacing it to the rest of the world. So yeah, it's worth paying attention to, and shout out to the people that are putting that on year after year.
All right, let's get to the poll here. Do you think that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake from Aspyr ever comes out? Is this the new one? When did I do this? New one? Nope, that's not the new. That was from yesterday. Let me go ahead and grab that.
It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. I asked about folders. Way more interesting. Do you use folders on your gaming platforms to organize your games? Yes, that's 36.9% said yes. 63.1% said no. I think like even that among those yesers, I bet a lot of them set it up once and forget about it because that's how I am.
Listen, I'm never keeping games that I'm not playing on my consoles.
Right.
If I'm not playing that game, it's gone. Like I will never have more than maybe 3 or 4 games on a console. Unless it's a portable console. If it's a Switch, I'll keep all the games on there that I have. I think I might be able to. I might play in the future. But like on PlayStation, Xbox, pretty much Steam, anywhere else. Like if once I'm done with the game, I delete it.
Like
100%.
I brought this up yesterday when we were talking about this, but Steam just created an adult games folder for me, and it's got let's see, Fight Angel.
Oh.
Dead or Alive 6. Some of these are just like, well, there's Honey Pop, of course. Let's see. The Quarry is an adult game according to Steam. Sex with Stalin is an adult game, as you might expect it to be. But, Yakuza Like a Dragon. And I'm trying to see if there's any other.
How is Sex with Stalin?
It's very stiff and rigid.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's see. Succubus, which is like a first-person one that has you can see boobies in that one. So that's an actual adult.
Boobies?
It's an actual adult game. There you go. Yeah. And
meanwhile, Steam's like, we gotta take the logos off these two things.
I did not. I'll just Furry Cyberfucker 2. There it is, right there on my thing. A new launch this week. All right. Let's see. I have a new question for you, everybody. I even put a clarification because people take this stuff pretty seriously. I'm like,
will Dragon's Dogma sell well?
All right, let's do that one instead.
What were you gonna go with?
I was gonna do. Are you planning to purchase a new console before the end of the year? That's not fun. Let's do. Will Dragon's Dogma 2 sell? Like, let's put a number on it. Like north of 9 million sell.
More than I would say. What Dragon's Dogma 1 was that? What 7
It's like
million?
7 million. It's like 7 million.
8 million. Let's say 9 million.
Okay. More than 9 million copies, and then I'll just put it in here.
No, let's do 7. Let's do 7.
Okay, yes.
The original, same as the original.
More than 7 million. More than the 7 million the original has sold. All right, there we go. Game Mess Mornings. Yes or no? That's easy. And then let's post this. And then Tam, you got anything happening for the rest of today? You got anything you want to promote? Anything you want to talk about? Happen over at GameSpot?
Voicemail Dump Truck is out now. If you want to see Jan say the word Skiburd, which is absolutely ridiculous to me.
I was checking in and on the show. I'm going to listen to the rest of it, and I've seen. I haven't watched the clip, but I saw the image, and I like the way that you guys have spelled this word Skiburd instead of clipboard. Was he thinking of cupboard? Like cupboard?
Exactly that. Exactly
listen,
that.
Cupboard is a very stupid word. Cupboard. Cupboard. What board for my cup?
It doesn't. The two words cup and board don't combine to make the thing that you are then looking at.
Right. Yes.
Right? It's an anomaly.
Word. Yeah, it's an anomaly. Yes, it's a bad English anomaly.
But a clip and a board come together, and they look exactly like the things that you fused to make that word.
And then
he's looked at them and went,
Skiburd.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to the Giant Bomb Twitter account right now and just tweet, anyone planning to do sick tricks on their Skiburd today.
Hell yes. Everyone should watch. Voicemail Dump Truck has been really fun for the last several weeks. Everyone should be listening to that if you're not. So definitely check out the latest one. Subscribe to that on podcast feeds or whatever. Today, Ranking of Tekken Endings is going to wrap up today for everybody. So be sure to check that out. And then, we got the weekend. You got any plans for the weekend, Tam?
I'm going to play some Live Alive.
Yeah, some of that too.
Dig into that. I might watch some anime because I am a known anime enjoyer.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some to catch up on. I've got to watch a few episodes for the next episode of JoJo Jeff Chesbeck Bizarre Adventure.
I'm getting pretty hot and heavy into what I've learned is the bridge arc of Naruto.
Wait, what arc? Bridge arc?
Yeah, the bridge, or the guy who builds a bridge, and the guy stands there's a mean looking ninja who throws a sword and goes into a tree, and then he stands on it and he looks over his shoulder looking all badass. I'm like, this is a show.
The Zabuza arc.
Arc. There you go. Okay,
that is a good one. That is where it pops off.
I'm like, it's starting. This show's starting now. Oh my god.
Yeah. By the end of that arc, you will be like, oh shit, this show is popping off.
So yeah, I've enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I'm keeping with it. It's still my workout show. So
I can't remember. Have you met Lee by this point?
No, not.
No, Lee.
No. There's still something to look forward to every episode. I can't wait till he shows up. Who knows how long it's going to take? I have no idea. So, but I'm like, okay, I'm in it to win it here. So I'll be keeping up with it.
Just keep in mind there are filler arcs. So just remember that you should skip the filler arcs.
Yeah, once we get to 50, once I get to episode 50, I'm going to start looking at the like the online resources that tell you what to skip. So
yeah, the end of 50 is by the time I told you, by the end of episode 50, you will love Rock Lee.
Yes, yeah. So I'm at least going. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna raw dog it to 50, and then from there I'll be like, okay, internet, tell me what to skip. And there's like a lot of like resources for that stuff. It's very easy to find. So I was like, oh, okay, this is helpful and handy. And Netflix seems to have it all. So yeah. All right, everybody. No more anime talk. We're cutting it off. We're cutting the show off. We're getting to the weekend. Everyone, have a good one. Take care of yourself. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, goodbye.